My family told me not to bring my cheap date to my sister's engagement party. I showed up anyway. When my date arrived in a limo and my father's boss ran up to shake his hand, everyone stared. Dad whispered, "That's your boyfriend?" I said, "That's your new employer. You're bringing him to the engagement party?" My mom didn't even try to hide the disapproval. He called me while I was at work, voice tight clipped. "He's not really suitable for this kind of event." I stared at my screen, stunned. She hadn't even met him. I didn't respond right away. I let her words hang in the air while I tried to decide whether to laugh or cry. "What do you mean by suitable?" I finally asked, keeping my tone calm. She hesitated. "It's a formal party. Your sister's engagement. We just don't want any distractions." Distractions. That's what she called the man I'd been dating for 6 months. The man who treated me with more kindness than anyone in my family ever had. I didn't argue. I didn't defend him. I just said, "I'll think about it," and hung up. Later that evening, I stopped by my parents' house to drop off a gift for my sister. I wasn't planning to stay long, but I walked in just as my brother was talking to our aunt in the living room. "She always picks the cheap ones," he said, laughing. My aunt chuckled. "Well, at least this one's polite." They didn't see me standing in the hallway. I didn't move. I just stood there listening. My brother continued, "I mean, come on. He drives a car that looks like it's held together with duct tape." I stepped back quietly and left without saying a word. I didn't cry. Not then. I just sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the dashboard. I wasn't angry at them for judging him. I was angry at myself for thinking they'd be different this time. That Sunday we had our usual family dinner. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans. My mother's go-to spread. I sat across from my father, who was unusually quiet. Halfway through the meal, he looked up and said, "Is he still driving that old Honda?" I nodded. "Yes. It gets him where he needs to go." My sister smirked. "Maybe he can Uber to the party. Or better yet, borrow something that doesn't squeak when it turns." I smiled, but my fork tightened in my hand. "He'll be there," I said. "With me." My mother cleared her throat. "Let's not make this into something it's not." I looked around the table. "You've never even met him." My brother shrugged. "We've seen enough." That night I sat on the couch with my boyfriend, legs tucked under me, head resting on his shoulder. I told him everything, what my brother said, what my sister joked about, what my parents implied. He didn't flinch. He didn't get defensive. He just listened. When I finished, he kissed the top of my head and said, "Let's go anyway." I looked up at him. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "I'll handle the ride." I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't need to. I trusted him. The next morning I opened the email invitation and clicked yes +1. It felt like a small act of rebellion. A quiet declaration. I wasn't going to let them shame me into hiding the person I loved. That afternoon my phone rang again. It was my mother. "I saw your RSVP," she said. "I know. Are you sure you want to bring him?" "Yes." She sighed. "Just don't make it a scene." "I won't," I said. "But I'm not coming alone." There was a long pause. Then she said, "Fine," and hung up. The days leading up to the party were tense. I avoided family group chats. My sister sent out updates about the menu, the seating chart, the dress code. I didn't respond. I didn't want to argue. I just wanted to show up and let the truth speak for itself. One evening, while we were having dinner at home, I asked him, "What are you planning?" He smiled. "You'll see." I raised an eyebrow. Should I be nervous? He reached across the table and took my hand. "No. But they might be." I laughed, the first real laugh in days. The night before the party, I laid out my dress. A navy blue wrap with a soft shimmer. Simple, elegant, nothing flashy. I didn't want to make a statement with clothes. I wanted the moment to speak for itself. As I zipped up the garment bag, I felt a strange mix of nerves and calm. I wasn't going to prove anything. I wasn't going to fight. I was just going to show up, with the man I loved, and let them see what they refused to look at before. The next morning I woke up early. I made coffee, sat by the window and watched the sun rise. My phone buzzed with a message from my sister. "See you tonight. Don't forget it's black tie." I didn't reply. Instead I turned to him and said, "Ready?" He smiled. "Always." And just like that the scene was set. The invitation had come with conditions, but I was bringing my own rewrite. He smiled and said, "Always." I took his hand, stepped into the limo and let the door close behind me. The soft hum of the engine, the scent of leather and the quiet confidence in his posture made everything feel surreal. I glanced out the tinted window as we pulled away from my apartment. Mrs. Langford, my neighbor, was peeking through her blinds. Her mouth dropped open when she saw the car. I waved gently. He waved back, stunned. The ride to the country club was quiet. Not awkward, just peaceful. I kept stealing glances at him, wondering how he managed to stay so calm. I was a bundle of nerves. My fingers fidgeted with the edge of my clutch. He noticed and placed his hand over mine. "You don't have to prove anything," he said softly. "I know," I whispered. "But I want to." The limo turned into the long driveway of the club, tires crunching over the gravel. The building stood tall, trimmed hedges lining the entrance, white columns gleaming in the afternoon sun. My father loved this place. He'd hosted company dinners here for years. It was his pride. His territory. The valet opened our door. My boyfriend stepped out first, then reached for me. I stepped out slowly, heels clicking against the stone path. The sun caught the shimmer in my navy dress. I straightened my shoulders and took his arm. Inside, the party was already in full swing. Waiters moved between guests with trays of champagne. Laughter floated through the air. A string quartet played softly in the corner. My sister stood near the fireplace, surrounded by her bridesmaids. She looked beautiful, radiant even. But when she saw us, her smile faltered. My cousins turned. One nudged the other. "Is that him?" I heard one whisper. My sister's fiancé tilted his head, confused. My mother's jaw tightened. My brother blinked twice, then looked away. I didn't say a word. I just held his hand tighter. We walked through the crowd slowly, deliberately. I could feel the eyes on us. The murmurs. The quiet recalculations. My boyfriend didn't flinch. He nodded politely to anyone who made eye contact. His calm was contagious. I started to breathe easier. Then, just as we reached the main hall, a man in a gray suit rushed over. "You made it," he said, beaming. I turned. It was my father's boss, Mr. Halpern. The same man who once ignored me at a company picnic when I tried to introduce myself. Now he was practically glowing. He shook my boyfriend's hand with both of his. "I didn't know you were coming. This is a treat." My boyfriend smiled. "Wouldn't miss it." Mr. Halpern turned to me. "You're with him?" I nodded. "Yes." He looked genuinely impressed. "Well, you've got yourself a good one." I smiled. "I know." My father approached slowly, eyes darting between Mr. Halpern and my boyfriend. "Everything all right?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Mr. Halpern clapped him on the back. "Didn't you know? He's joining us next quarter. Senior advisor. Brilliant mind." My father's face shifted. Confusion. Then realization. Then something else. Something close to respect. He turned to me, voice low. "That's your boyfriend?" I nodded. "He's your new employer," I said. He didn't respond. Just stared. I watched the gears turn behind his eyes. The man he'd dismissed without meeting was now someone he'd be reporting to. The silence between us was louder than any argument we'd ever had. We moved on, leaving him standing there. The rest of the evening unfolded like a slow unraveling. My sister tried to keep the spotlight on herself, but the energy had shifted. People kept approaching us, asking questions, making small talk, trying to understand how they'd missed something so obvious. My boyfriend handled it all with grace. He complimented the venue, praised the food, asked about the couple's honeymoon plans. He was warm, attentive, and genuine. Everything they thought he wasn't. At one point, my aunt approached me near the dessert table. "He's impressive," she said, eyes wide. I nodded. "He always has been." She looked down. "I didn't know." "I know," I said. "That's the problem." Later, my sister raised her glass for a toast. "To love that surprises us," she said, eyes flicking toward me. I smiled. My boyfriend squeezed my hand under the table. My brother didn't speak the rest of the night. He kept glancing at us, then looking away. I didn't need him to apologize. I didn't need him to change. I just needed him to see. As the evening wound down, my mother approached me quietly. "He was very polite," she said. I nodded. He always is. She hesitated. I didn't expect. I know, I said. None of you did. She looked at me, eyes softening. You looked happy tonight. I said. I am. We left just after the cake was cut. The limo was waiting outside, engine humming softly. As we drove away, I leaned my head on his shoulder. Thank you, I whispered. He kissed my forehead. For what? For showing them who you are. He smiled. I didn't do anything special. You didn't have to, I said. You just had to be you. The city lights blurred past the window. I closed my eyes and let the quiet fill the space between us. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need validation. I just needed truth, and it had arrived in a limo. The city lights blurred past the window as I leaned into his shoulder, the hum of the limo soft beneath us. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. The silence between us was full, of peace, of pride, of something deeper than victory. When we reached my apartment, he walked me to the door, kissed my forehead and said, "Call me tomorrow. Sleep well." I didn't sleep right away. I sat on the edge of my bed, dress still on, heels kicked off, staring at my phone. I wasn't waiting for a message. I was waiting for the shift. And it came. At 7:42 a.m. my phone rang. It was my mother. "He's impressive," she said, her voice softer than usual. I didn't respond immediately. I let her sit in that sentence. "I didn't know," she added. "I know," I said. There was a pause. "Would you and he like to come for dinner next week?" I said we'd think about it. 10 minutes later, my brother sent a text. "Didn't see that coming." I stared at it for a while. No emojis. No sarcasm. Just 5 words. I didn't reply. By noon my father called. He didn't mention the party. He didn't mention the limo. He just said, "There's a bistro near my office. Quiet place. Want to grab lunch tomorrow?" I said yes. The next day we met at the bistro. It was tucked between a bookstore and a tailor shop, with a small patio and checkered tablecloths. My father was already seated when we arrived. He stood when we approached, shook my boyfriend's hand and gestured to the table. The conversation started slow. My father asked about his work, his background, his plans. My boyfriend answered calmly, respectfully. He didn't boast. He didn't downplay. He just spoke like a man who knew who he was. I watched my father nod, ask more questions, even laugh once. It wasn't approval. It was curiosity. And that was enough. At one point my father leaned back and said, "You know, I used to think success looked a certain way." My boyfriend smiled. "We all do." My father looked at me. "You've always seen things differently." I didn't know how to respond, so I just smiled. After lunch my father walked us to the car. He didn't say much, but his handshake lingered a second longer than usual. That was his way of saying something without saying it. Over the next few weeks things shifted. My sister started inviting me to planning meetings. She asked about centerpieces, music, seating arrangements. She even asked if my boyfriend would be comfortable giving a toast. My mother called to ask my opinion on the guest list. She asked if I thought the food should be plated or buffet style. She asked if I'd help her pick a dress. My brother stopped making jokes. He didn't apologize, but he didn't mock either. He asked about my boyfriend's favorite football team. He asked if we wanted to join him and his friends for a game night. Slowly the walls came down. Not because I demanded it. Not because I fought for it. But because I showed them who I was, and who he was. One evening, after a quiet dinner at home, my boyfriend pulled me aside. "You didn't need me to prove anything," he said. I smiled. "Maybe not. But I'm glad they saw you." He kissed my forehead. "I'm glad they saw you." That moment meant more than any limo or handshake. It wasn't about status. It wasn't about power. It was about being seen, fully, clearly, without filters or assumptions. I learned something in those weeks. I learned that silence can be powerful. That showing up is sometimes the loudest answer. That love doesn't need validation, but truth does. And when truth walks in wearing a suit and kindness, even the harshest critics pause. I didn't win. I just lived. And that was enough.